You guys so much. All right. So vernacular. And this is important for us. Definitions, words, vernacular. We have particular terms that are associated with our content area, right? With the area of study, academic specific terms. And just like we need to sort of have vocabulary instruction on that and really understand the concept behind the term, so do the students also. And it makes it easier for them to understand what they're seeing, what they're reading in English language if they have a name to give to it. So talking about blending, when we're speaking about phonetics, I should just begin sort of like as a review from last time. Phonemes are the smallest speech sound. Sorry, guys, I have no idea what's happening just now. It's like going crazy. Phonemes, phonetic terms and elements, the basics of language, a phoneme. Phoneme is the individual. Oh, that's not good that you can't see that. Phoneme. Individual speech sounds. Phonemic awareness is the understanding and knowledge of phonemes, but also how to play with the phonemes, how to adjust the different rules, the different patterns in which phonemes create sounds. So later we'll take a look at the TEXES, which is what the students must get from your classroom, the knowledge and the skills that they must learn while they're in your classroom. And it particularly goes into what things in phonemic awareness. In fact, let's just very quickly, since we can and we're here, just jump out really quickly and take a look at those TEXES. We find that in the STR TEXES in English language arts and reading. STR is a deeper dive into English language arts and reading. It is a hyper focus on areas of our English language arts instruction that we now know are so very important in order for ease of literacy to take place. Now, I had 3 children of my own go through the education system prior to STR. And even though all of them are amazing readers, very literate, very fluent, very successful students in academia, they did not access literacy as easily as my 2 youngest daughters, who only started elementary after STR was implemented. So it's interesting anecdotally based on my, observation with my children. Going to the TEXES, I just jumped out of our PowerPoint to show you the TEXES because we are reviewing knowledge and skills that our students must gain while they're in our classroom. And so you'll see, this is kindergarten, you have them developing and sustaining foundational skills in oral language, and then the things that they have to do. Developing and sustaining foundational language skills in reading and writing, beginning reading and writing, and the things that they have to do. The things that they have to do are important. And we need to understand each and every one of these objectives that the students must master. We too must be aware, knowledgeable, and able to instruct and assess on those. So in order for the student to demonstrate phonological awareness, they have to identify and produce rhyming words, recognize spoken alliteration or groups of words that begin with the same spoken onset or initial sound. And those were some of the definitions that we were seeing. We see blend, we see onset here. Onset, the initial consonant cluster. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. A tongue twister? Yes. But so too is it alliteration, right? And getting kids to play. The cat climbed and clawed the clouds, right? From the couch. Lots of C words. Getting the kids to play and recognize what they're doing is playing with phonemes. I am taking that one initial, the onset sound, onset consonant, and playing word games. So going back to the terms here, each and every one of you should have access to this PowerPoint and also to the TEXES as well. And so each of these needs proper analysis, especially the TEXES, because whatever it is that is listed in the TEXES is fair game for the exam. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to memorize it. That just means you have to know and be able to do the particular things and skills that they are required to do. So we have blending, like the word snap all together, snap. Individual phonemes. Each one of these is a phoneme, 4 phonemes to make a word. We read it together and it's snap together. The digraph is 2 letters that represent one sound, and there's consonant and there's vowel clusters. Here we have the consonant cluster, like in shut or ship or shark. A diphthong. Digraph means 2. Diphthong, the di is 2. Phoneme, where the mouth glides from a vowel sound directly into the same syllable. Both vowels can be heard, but not quite making the usual sound because of the blending. So oi, oi, ow, ow. They still make individual sounds, but not what they don't behave in the normal way. Now, it is important for students to be able to read unfamiliar words if they know these patterns, which is why science of teaching reading was so important, because what it did was we already sort of briefly touched on these things, obviously, in English language arts and reading, but I guarantee you didn't learn what a digraph or a diphthong was. I certainly didn't. I went to school in the 80s, elementary in the 80s, so it was a while ago, and no, we didn't learn it this way, and they certainly didn't allow us to play with patterns and language so much so that we could predict what new words sounded and or meant. And that's what the aim of science of teaching reading, and actually is working. So then you have trigraph. And if you were to, tri means 3 and graph means like symbol, right? Trigraph is a single sound that is represented by 3 letters or symbols. In the word match, that's TCH, not It's like if we were to break it apart into individual speech sounds, individual phonemes, but that's not the way that it is meant to be pronounced. So we have trigraphs and sounds that are represented by 3 graphemes to make one speech sound. A phoneme, we talked about this. The smallest unit, apple. Right? Graphemes are the visual representation, the symbols. So like in a trigraph, there are 3 graphemes, right? 3 graphemes in ch. However, it's one phoneme. This is a very important point. Graphemes, phonemes, not the same. A phoneme is the sound that comes from the letters together. And sometimes it's just one letter that makes the phoneme. But in our language, sometimes multiple letters make that one speech sound. We discussed onset, the initial sound, initial consonant or consonant cluster, like sh, is also the onset. Sh. The rhyme is after the onset. It's the vowel and the consonants that follow the onset. So in the word shut is the onset, even though it's two graphemes and one phoneme, and ut is the rhyme. Onset, rhyme at the end. And morpheme is a word, the smallest meaningful unit of language, a word by itself. So I'm going to give you guys an elevator. So if I wrote, let me see, so biography. So bio has meaning in itself. Graph has meaning in itself, and E doesn't really have it, but it's like gives it context. Biography, each of those carries meaning apart. Bio is self or life, and so words can be broken apart into multiple morphemes, right? Or the smallest version, like cat, is just one morpheme. That's it. That is the morpheme. A morphemic analysis is you're looking at the different word parts that are in a word in order to ascertain its meaning. So a morpheme is the smallest meaningful unit of language in a word, but there could be several morphemes in one word. So types of assessments, very important, because our job as teachers, period, but specifically as English language arts and science of teaching and reading teachers, you have to be checking for understanding. And that's all that assessment is about. Assessments are about checking for understanding. Where are you and where do you need to go? Checking for understanding. Where are you? And where do you need to go? We're doing this always, whether it's walking around and doing an informal assessment incorporated in the day-to-day activities, and you're like listening to people, making observations about student performance or their progress. That's important. There could be diagnostic. Your diagnostic, they assess or diagnose the student or the learner's current knowledge, current views on a topic, current prior knowledge. Where are they diagnostically? Let me diagnose their level of skill/knowledge. We give benchmarks to assess overall skills every so often, given periodically, either at the end of every quarter or at the end of every half, throughout the year, to establish baseline achievement data and measure progress. And so I was looking for it a while ago, but let me see. There are that benchmark doesn't even have to be so formal. You could literally be testing your students on their ability to blend, like every month, just checking on them, giving an activity where they have to blend or ascertain the blend or read new words that have blends in them, and measuring them. So a benchmark and we have important markers for science of teaching and reading, foundational skills, which we know they have to understand in order to be masterful and highly competent and literate readers. So giving them benchmarks as we progress through the year helps set the standard and also monitor their progress. Formative, and she highlighted form. They do form. Formative is anything that you do before and during the learning period. Summative is after all learning has taken place, in summary at the end of the deal. Formative is all the way through. And you can have formal. Let me get my drawing thing. You can have formative, like a multiple choice exam, an essay, any type of sort of formal assessment that you would consider, a test or measurement. And informal, again, walking around, listening to the cooperative learning groups, having a conversation with the students, walking past them and making an observation as you walk past their desk. All of that is a gathering of data to check for understanding, to see where they are and where they need to go. And more importantly, how can you help them? What adjustments can be made to your class, to instruction? What what reviews can be made of skills? What extra practice in order to bolster an area of need? So formative assessments are meat and potatoes. They form or they drive instruction. They are used to form future lessons. We assess comprehension. We decide if material needs to be retaught, if we can move on, if clarification is needed. They help form. Formative forms or drives future lessons. Summative is purely evaluative. At the end of all the work that we've done, this is where you are and where you're going to go next time. So it is the sum of all the knowledge. In summation, in summary, you learned this. Typically, in my mind, the years that I taught, summative was their test, their end of whatever the state gave them. That was their summative exam. After all the exercises of all the things that we did, the skills that we practiced and the knowledge that we learned, in summary, their performance on the standardized test for the state was the summative. We didn't have an end of year type situation. Mostly was just formative and maybe even semester exams, but not summative, not for me. For me, the summative was their state exam. In summary, this is what you got out of the class. Do we have any questions thus far? Okay, excellent. Oops. Sorry, guys. Okay. So in domain 2, we go deeper into the foundational skills, which I was talking about. Competency 3 is understanding foundational concepts, principles, and best practices. That means activities, that means strategies, that means supports related to the development of oral language. So important. Look at that highlighted. Oral language is talking and listening and speaking and listening. A quiet classroom is not acquiring language. There's no active learning going on. Students need to listen to a little bit of direct instruction, go out and do guided practice, do independent practice, and then come back for a discussion, talk to their peers, talk to the teacher, talking to develop oral language proficiency. It is known scientifically, theoretically and scientifically proven that oral language proficiency dictates whether or not someone is going to be able to be successful, not just in school, but in life. Your ability to listen and listen. You might not understand everything, but you would have the wherewithal to say, listen, these parts I didn't understand. That proficiency to understand and seek clarification, so very important. And this includes people who are students that are acquiring a second language, because not everyone is going to be a native English speaker. And so you're going to have students that are native English speakers that have low oral language proficiency. And then you might have ELL students, English language proficiency students, who are acquiring a second language and may be at an oral language proficiency in English, but their Spanish oral language proficiency is off the charts. Once you unlock English for them, oral language proficiency will be unlocked, period. So oral language proficiency, very, very important. Demonstrate knowledge of developmentally appropriate, what works for little kids, what works for kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, hands-on, engaging activities where they're speaking, where they're reciting, where they're singing songs to practice, like they are involved in the situation, and utilizing evidence-based assessment to create instructional practices that promote all students' development in oral language skills. In order to promote their oral language skills, you have to let them talk. So if that question asks you at all, if you see the word oral language, development of oral language, you know best practice is getting them to speak, is going to be activities that have them listening to something or someone and then responding back, the gist of it, what they got from it. And if you look, we can go back now. If you look at, we're going to go just really quickly back to the TEXES. If we look at the oral language portion of it here, and you'll see it because it's right here and it's the same. It's going to be in each grade level, which is why you have to go to the English Language Arts and Reading standards, TEXES, not standards, TEXES, and do a deep dive in each grade level till third grade, oral language. Not for nothing, oral language proficiency holds pivotal, means it can turn you around and make things better, period. It is a ticket to be able to speak for yourself, advocate for yourself, to know the words and wherewithal to understand what's going on around you and to listen and be able to speak and connect ideas. It is pivotal to school success. Verbal engagement must be maximized across grade levels. That means if I'm a principal and I go by a kindergarten classroom and it's quiet, I'm going to be very upset. They should be in there talking about everything. What did you just do 5 minutes ago? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. We're talking. And not just willy-nilly, reinforcing the things that we've learned and the ideas. If we just read a book about saltwater crocodiles, and that's what we're talking about at the time in context, but having them always learning new vocabulary, talking about new things, talking to other students who might have access to more vocabulary and say things that they will learn, because language is learned by listening and speaking and modeling, of course, via direct instruction as well. But think about children at the house. Do they learn to listen and speak at home without any direct instruction? Are parents there literally teaching speaking and vocabulary skills and all of that stuff? No, you listen, they're watching and they're learning. They're watching other people around them and learning. And so maximizing your potential by having them talk so that they can use each other at resources. You're going to have students with different skill levels. They come to you, high oral language proficiency, low oral language proficiency. And if I had a class of, 23 kindergartners and I had a very low oral language proficiency and a high one, I'm certainly going to pair them together, because I know one knows how to speak to the other and knows how to extract language from the other and engage. And so I'm not going to let them choose. I'm going to meticulously choose partnering and pairings so that they can develop and work collaboratively and share information and have someone that they can listen to that is modeling more expert level English, than they are currently familiar with. Academic language, phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, syllable patterns. Syllable patterns is under phonological awareness. Actually, phonemic awareness is under phonological awareness. And so competency 4 is about phonological, which is the overarching umbrella. Phonemic awareness is underneath phonological awareness. And it includes many, many things. And we'll go back to the TEKS right now and just take a look. We know that phonological is the awareness is the larger area. All of these are phonological awareness. In order to demonstrate as a kindergartner that you have phonological awareness, you have to identify and produce rhyming words. And it's important to note that these go in order. You're not going to, if you're feeling frisky on day 2 of kindergarten, begin with blending spoken phonemes to form one syllable. You're not going to start here at number 8 because they haven't even demonstrated phonological awareness, knowing, identifying rhyming words, individual speech sounds. So we wouldn't begin blending. We wouldn't be manipulating. These are done step by step. We master one, move to the other. That doesn't mean that we stop checking for them as far as their ability to do certain things, certain skills. We're constantly checking and building on these skills so that it solidifies and literally maps their language, a meta-linguistic map in their mind of all this wordplay that they have practice with. Demonstrate and apply phonemic knowledge. Look, identifying and matching common sounds that letters represent. Common sounds that the letters like k, k, and then the cat, right? And they would circle it and do it together. But look at this. Using letter sound relationship to decode, including, this is the most basic. This is how it starts. The vowel consonant, and then moving on to consonant, vowel, consonant. So vowel consonant is like, is, it, at, right? As. Then we have consonant, vowel, consonant. Bat, cat, mat, rats. And incidentally, this is a sort of a word group, and it has a rhyming, but of the ending word, ending sound, right? The beginning, the onset doesn't rhyme, but the end does. So bat, cat, mat, rat. And with my students, when they're older, I can say, what if I erase the b and add a k, k sound? Erase the b and add a k. And they'll say, cat, it's cat. That's deletion, substitution of phonemes. And we want them to play so that they can see when they come into and have practice with learning new words, even at this very, very small level. CCVC, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant. Ship. Shot. It looked like I was going to write the S, the shiznit word, but I wasn't. Ship, shot. And then the consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant words like rich. Consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant. And here we have ch, that ch sound, which makes one phoneme, but it is clearly 2 graphemes. So getting the students to understand, to play with language, and the English language is not easy. There are patterns, but then there are irregular patterns and one off or words that don't fit a particular rule that's important and like fundamental to our understanding. So playing with these, utilizing high frequency words, all of these reinforce the students' metalinguistics abilities. Okay, English language proficiency, silent period. And this is like a little bit off for us. I'm going to just annotate it for you. And we have designated beginner, and that might be silent. Silent or limited speech. It's going to be mostly in their native language. So 98% of it. And maybe they might know how to say things like, my grandma, when she was in school in the United States, spoke Spanish as a first language. And she's passed already, but she used to, her and her brother and their friends in school, because they were English language learners, and before they had to go to the restroom, they had to say, "May I be excused to use the restroom," right? And they didn't, the teacher clearly wasn't enunciating and doing any of the English language like strategies that we utilize in order to help students acquire language. She was not enunciating, maybe excused really quickly. And in their ear, because another language phonemes, another language is their native language, they heard "bescues." And for years, this group of students always said, may I use the bescues? They called the restroom bescues. And so that is at beginner level, where you're either silent, and you never want to rush anyone out of their silent period. What they're doing is listening and learning the oral language proficiency. I had a student once who stayed silent almost an entire 6 weeks, and they wanted to refer her to special ed. It was in the 7th grade. She was a recent immigrant. She had not spoken. I had never heard her voice. And we had just had a meeting, and they had said, well, she hasn't spoken. We're checking all of the teachers, math, science. I was her reading teacher. She had not spoken in my class either. And I said, because my master's in English, said, I think she's just in her silent period. I definitely think she's listening and following along and doing the stuff. And I think we need to be patient. I don't think this is a special ed situation. And sure enough, maybe like a week and a half later, she started participating. Nobody likes to feel ignorant. Nobody likes to feel confused or silly or out of the norm. And so if I know I'm going to be mispronouncing and I have no idea what I'm saying, I'm going to wait till I know. Me personally, not everybody's like that. Some people don't care and they'll just like join in right away. Not everybody's like that. And you cannot force someone out of their silent period. So for beginners, they're in their silent, or it's very, very broken English where you can't get a message. They cannot understand a message you're giving them, and you cannot understand a message that they're giving you at the beginner stage. And this is the way that I am saying it is the way that the state is going to dictate it. Then we have intermediate. Intermediate students can speak to you. They can get a message out to you. You know exactly what they want, exactly what they're talking about, but it's super broken English. It's not proper. There might be like verb issues, but they understand what you're saying and you understand what they're saying. Advanced high. Advanced is they have pretty good handle on English. Very little supports are needed in the classroom. They can use, complicated sentences. They might, need some Spanish language. They might have some subject verb agreement, but only in writing, not in speaking anymore, just like in a writing sense. And last but not least, we have advanced high. Advanced high is equal to native English speakers. I would say almost better from my experience. Every single one of my best writers was an advanced high Spanish speaking student or an advanced high ELL student. Advanced high is comparable. They need no support. They're on the level of native English speakers, grammatically, reading wise, listening, speaking, writing, and they also have access to a plethora of more vocabulary because they have the vocabulary words from their first language. So it has always been the case in my 16 years of teaching English language arts and reading with junior high and high school students that my advanced high ELL students were my best writers every single time, every time. And they just had so much more access to language, to more ways of illustrating, more access to grammatical structure. I don't know if it was because of their knowledge of another language and just the playing and morphing the two together, but it makes a super writer, a super speaker. Once mastery is achieved in English language, it unlocks so much for the students. Culturally responsive teaching, culturally responsive instruction. That's you centering your student in your mind, all your students, when you're thinking about your lessons and making sure that you highlight, that you affirm, that you applaud unique cultural strengths in your students and nurture those. They are strengths. Their differences are strengths in the classroom. And in order for us to continually achieve that tailoring to them, to all of our students, culturally responsive instruction or teaching is really important. Having high expectations for everyone. Creating positive relationships with the family and the community, bringing people in from the community to create relationships with the students, showing your students, I have a relationship with your mom. She's cool. I like her. So make me call your mom. Like we will talk together. Positive relationships with the family. Cultural sensitivity. Do not be insensitive to your students. A student will not learn from you if they do not feel safe with you. And if you're laughing about them or their people, or their people's people or something, their brains will not be open for business, period. It will not. It's a flight or fight situation, and it's not going to work out well. And it's not going to work out in mastery of TEKS or mastery in literacy. Achieving, active teaching message. Don't sit at your desk, be involved, talk to your students, talk to them like they're real people, like they're important to you. Like they have something important to say. It's unfortunate, but sometimes students don't have parents at home who listen to their kids. They don't have someone to practice oral language proficiency. Like, let me talk to you. Man, I have 5 kids and I am an English teacher and obviously realize how important oral language proficiency. And I let my children talk ad nauseum. And sometimes I'm tired. And I'm like, I just want to end this conversation right now because I'm done. This is like child number 4, but it's so important for so many reasons. A, to feel important, like what they're saying is important. They have something to say. Someone important is listening to them and they're practicing language. And then that interaction, that listening to what you say back and ingesting it, very, very important. Active teacher methods are important because you can't just be someone who gives a lesson at the board, gives a handout, and then di que te fue bien, say that it went well for you with that. You cannot do that. There has to be discussion. There has to be engaging. Let's get together and think, pair, share. What do we think about what we just did? What would you change about this? Get them to talk about the things. Be active in the methods that you choose to engage your students in. You are a facilitator. You are not the director. You are not the manager. You are not the boss. You are a facilitator. You facilitate the knowledge process, the learning process. You are the person who greases the wheels. You set it up, put the grease on there, and then you let it slide, and you facilitate the students to grow and learn. They won't always get it right, and that's okay, because it's better for them to get it wrong while they're with us, whether it's behavior or content wise, for us to redirect them. They don't always have redirection at home. And that's just a simple fact, not just because people are negligent, but because people are literally working more than one jobs to keep people afloat. And so the students, the kids really suffer at the end of the day. And I mean, I started teaching in 2003, 2004, but even then I saw how just, I don't want to use the word thirsty but actually thirsty, like they were starving for attention. Many of the students in my early years that I came across with, and I was a young mom, and it was weird to have 12 and 13-year-olds call me mom because I was so young at the time. And I thought to myself, I would never call someone else my mom but I love my mom. Oh my God. I mean, my mom's my mom. But if you didn't feel like you had that, you might call somebody that gives you attention and says, you did really good, love. I saw what you did and that was hard. You might want to call that person mom. And through the years, over and over and over again. So just really being a facilitator, understanding that we have humans with us, and that it's not everything is the same, not everything works. This student control of portions of the lesson, this helps with interest, motivation. If I have a part in a play, man, I'm going to be ready for when my part comes up. I'm probably going to know the part before, the part after. If you have control and or a part in a lesson or deciding, this is even true for classroom management. If students are in on the deciding of what our expectations are going to be for behavior in a class, that is a portion of control. Agency. They're agents of their own world, a little bit in control, and literally they don't have control anywhere else, not at home, not on the street, not with the doctors. And so just giving them little portions gets the buy-in, that intrinsic motivation. Internal, it engages them, utilizing what they're interested in, having them be in control a little bit, or have a deciding factor. Even if it's just you get to decide what assessment to do. You're going to want to write it for me or draw a picture or say it orally. Those are 3 choices. And I can assess you either way, but you get control. And now they think, you know what? Awesome. I'm going to choose the one I'm best at. Yes. And now that's what's cool about it, is they had a choice. It's not just one. Instruction around groups and pairing, making sure that you're there, that you have that proximity, you are close to them, in close proximal space to them, so that you can jump in and have conversations you know what, I never thought of it like that. That's very interesting. Or that is really an interesting way. I never thought about it, but let's take a look at the words that the author actually used to see, and sort of be there to respond, engage, be active. Make sure that your students know you care about them individually. If a student goes to your class and says, my teacher doesn't like me, you're doing it wrong. You are absolutely doing it wrong. I had students that weren't even in my class that would just come and they'd be like, Miss Sauceda. And I made them feel why can't we be in your class? Too bad, so sad. But you need to just make them, and they'll do anything, write essays, do the work. They just want to feel valued. Okay, before we're going to leave here for tonight and start next week on the rest of the slides. Hold on. But I just wanted to does anybody have any questions over tonight's information and what I need for you? Because Yes, absolutely. You totally can. Yes, you can. Yesenia. So what I need for you guys to be doing between now and next week is going through those TEKS, right? Going through the TEKS, looking and like drawing examples, writing examples. You know how I gave you example on CVC, the VC words, things like that, so that it is like second nature when they bring it up to you, because it's timed and it's complicated. But it's not impossible. We just need to know, the building blocks to get us to that literacy, and then how best to articulate it to the state. Does anyone have any questions? Let me take down roll really quickly before you guys go. Let's see. Michaela, thank you, Michaela, for coming this evening. I will mark it in your file that you attended. Megan, thank you so much for attending. And Yesenia, thank you so much for attending. You can stay after if you would like to speak with me. So you guys are dismissed. Between this week and next week, I'd like for you to do a deep dive of your foundational reading standards for kindergarten, first, second, and third grades. Do I have any questions? Everyone good? Okay, well then I'll see everyone. Thank you for that. Thank you so much, guys. We're going to continue where we left off today, and then also look at some practice questions, go through like the nitty gritty of how they try to be sneaky, because they do try to be sneaky. It's not meant to be an easy exam by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it takes already complicated knowledge and makes it more complicated. So we're going to go through that next week. So I look forward to seeing you guys. I hope you all can make it. If not, I will certainly post it unless someone objects. Okay, bye guys. Hi, Yesenia.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you, it's because I already finished the whole STR thing on the 240, but Jamie said that I couldn't register to the test until she gets a yes from you.
Okay.
So I was just wondering, what are the requirements with you in order for me to get that yes for me to officially submit the test?
Absolutely. So have you taken it before?
I have.
Okay. And have you sent me your scores to look at?
No, I haven't. Okay, let me see if I can pull them up. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Just go ahead and send them to me now. Or you can send them to me tonight. But what I need for you to do is just finish watching the STR videos, because I go into detail about the essay and whatnot. Once you're done with those,
they're the ones on your YouTube, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I did delete everything. I don't know. I broke my phone and then I deleted all my my emails. Can you? I know that you send them to me over like that break of Christmas.
Yeah, I can resend them to you. No problem.
Yeah, just so I can have a link to that. Honestly, I think I got a 2 something, but that was like literally with no like studying,
no preparation, and this is not one that you can go in with no preparation.
Yeah, so I didn't do as bad as I thought I was gonna do, honestly.
Good.
I'll watch that, and by the end of this week, hopefully, I'm not gonna like register to like next week, you know. I want to give myself at least another month. I just want to have the date already.
Right, and I think that's
smart,
because once you have a date, you can be like, this is how I plan out my study. Yeah, absolutely, in preparation. So I agree with that. I'll ask them to open it tomorrow so you can prepare. But I want for you to do between now and then, and when you take it, is watch the videos and come to the Thursday class.
Here and to like a test. I'm thinking by like maybe mid-February or the end of February, but just have like a set date to where I can like, okay, I'm really gonna take it. I really need
absolutely.
instead of just being like, oh, well, I don't know, I don't have a date or whatever. But
yeah, no, I get it.
Okay.
I'll ask them to open the exam for you tomorrow. So by the end of the day, you should be able to like look at the dates, sign up for an exam date. Let me know what date you do choose. That way I can put it on my calendar, light a vela for you. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, and then also come to the sessions and view the things, and you should be ready by then.
Okay, alrighty. I'll go ahead and send you still my my scores. I'll log into the whole website just so you can have a look at it. And then,
yeah, that way I can tell you what areas you need to focus on. Like, and I can actually focus next week's a little bit on brushing up on your areas of weakness.
Okay, alrighty. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Yes, bye. Have a beautiful rest of your evening.
Yes.